You can just tell them that it didn't have to be true. So this way, it's like, here's some time.
Hi, welcome to Midday Roast with Team SI. It's our weekly Facebook Live and podcast where we kind of share some of the conversations that we have around the office about technology and digital marketing with you, with our clients, with our friends. And we want to encourage you to join in the conversation too. So if you have a question about today, it's about really anything digital marketing, but today we're talking about display advertising. So if you have a question about display advertising, go ahead and drop us a comment in. Now, before we get started on our conversation, I want to go ahead and share it on my phone. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Facebook app on my phone, and I'm going to go ahead and find where Team SI is live now with Display Advertising 101, and I'm going to share that with everybody I know. And it's going to instantly share this according to Facebook. And so I'm all shared out. Kyle did it, Whitney's doing it, Michael's doing it. And we'll take this chance as they share to introduce everybody that's with us today. We've got a little bit of a different crew. Over here on the far right, we'll start out with Kyle, Senior Account Executive. We have Michael Newman. Michael's one of our digital media strategists in our digital media team. Whitney Elliott. Whitney Burgess.
No.
Yeah. Whitney Burgess is, I always make one mistake as I introduce, so it's your turn.
That's good.
So Whitney Burgess is our Senior Account Executive. Also, and I'm Laney Bird. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Team SI. So, first off, let's talk about what display advertising is in general. So we're start off with the level playing field. We'll let you start, Whitney.
Okay, so display advertising is similar to a billboard, but it's digital. So it's the banner ads that follow you around on the internet. So typically it can be from things that you're interested in, websites that you visited before, and having that as similar, just like a billboard, that will kind of follow you around, remind you to maybe go back and purchase something that you might be interested in, and help drive traffic to the website.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's the little ads all around the content that you're trying to see. From a web publishing standpoint, recently publishers have tried to cut down on the number of ads they've had because viewers have ad blindness. If there's too many dancing monkeys on your screen, you just ignore them. But we're trying to get away from them. Now, Kyle, what do we recommend using display advertising for?
I definitely use it as part of a campaign that I really like the retargeting aspect of display. And
what's retargeting mean?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so retargeting is it's retargeting people that have visited your site or maybe a certain page on your site. So, for instance, if you are looking at a specific vehicle or maybe a specific piece of equipment, anything like that, that's the field I deal in mostly. But then we can retarget those folks, and we can send a relevant ad to follow them around to all of the different sites that might have display advertising, like weather.com.
Right, yeah. I mean, definitely, to me, whenever I look at a proposal for a campaign, we're putting a campaign together, the question is why, if a retargeting campaign isn't in there already, the question is why didn't we do one? You have to have a good reason not to do one, because retargeting really is the best bang for your buck from a web standpoint, because it's someone who's already interested in your product, already interested in what you're doing for them, and you're waiting to achieve. The other thing that we use display advertising for a lot of times is just brand awareness.
Absolutely.
So why don't you talk about how we use brand awareness?
So with brand awareness, it's a lot of making sure that people, it's within the terms, that they're aware of your brand and something that's going on. A lot of that is going to be...
It's my 7th grade junior high answer. What's brand awareness? It's making sure people are aware of your brand.
Yes. But the time that it's most useful would be if you're trying to break into a new market. It could be if you're getting ready to announce a new product. It could be, and these would be things that you would want to do in preparation for a new product announcement. So it could, it's everything from our restaurant is opening up near you, or wanting to make sure that people attend an event that you're sponsoring. So you want to make sure that they're seeing your brand on the front end, so that when you give them the ask of would you like to attend, they have a connection between the two. Another thing that I think is really important with awareness is that the goal of the awareness campaign is to drive traffic to the site and kind of show that interest, and then you have the retargeting as a follow-up. And there's a time limit. Like, we don't want to hit somebody if they were at your site 6 months ago. And I know that Michael knows more about this, but it's like we don't want to just, if follow somebody around for 6 months? There's usually like a sweet spot in that, right?
Sure, yeah. I think we usually look at 30 to 60 days, sometimes 90, if depending on it's got a lot to do with the product. But yeah, I mean, the retargeting is good for keeping your brand in the forefront of people's mind up to a point. Obviously, if you haven't been back to the site in a month and a half, 2 months, you probably moved on from whatever point in the buying cycle you were at.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some of the other measurements that we use to tell how a display campaign's working, Michael?
Sure. I mean, like we buy a lot of our stuff, for cost per click basis. So, we're driving clicks, we're driving as much traffic as we can to the site. But another metric, separate from that would be just the amount of eyeballs that it gets in front of. So cost per 1,000.
Yeah, if you really want to build awareness, it's a cost per 1,000. The number of impressions, people who actually saw your ad.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's actually some formulas that we can actually look at how many people saw your ad and what kind of brand lift you got. And we can actually, in some campaigns, depending on what the platform you're running on, you can also look at the frequency. Like how many, this many times the person saw an ad this number of times. And so there's a certain frequency number that we want to hit.
Yeah.
But I also think, the way Kyle started out, it's important to remember display advertising is part of an overall campaign.
Absolutely.
That also has, display advertising has different reasons. We have display advertising for awareness, and then we have remarketing and retargeting display. And then those are, retargeting is definitely a cost per click.
Yes.
We want to drive someone to the site. Awareness is we want to build awareness of a product, so later on they may take an action, because definitely we aren't going to attribute whatever happened to the last click. We also can have Facebook ads and search engine marketing ads, and pre-roll video is all part of the overall campaign in different elements where the display advertising is stacked in, working with all of them. Now, before we go any further, I want to acknowledge the prevalence of mobile and display advertising on mobile. Whereas a lot of times we've said that display advertising, I mentioned ad blindness earlier, is an issue. People just don't see the ads, but we really see a really higher click-through rate on mobile. So give me an example of a mobile campaign and how that's works, Kyle.
Well, one that I really like doing is you catch people, especially in larger cities that may have a commute time, and putting it in front of the types of things, maybe an in-app ad that's going to be related to their commute. So what do you do when you're on your phone, like maybe playing a game? So maybe we can focus. For instance, we've done some with some carpooling ads, and most of our impressions came from games that people were playing while they were, riding the bus into the city or riding the whatever other public transportation. We were encouraging them to be a part of a carpool system. So that was the perfect target. We had a lot of success by going through and finding people that were solving puzzles or doing Sudoku on their phone, something like that.
And in general,
right,
the click-through rate in display advertising on mobile, we're seeing almost double that of a standard display advertising click-through rate. And we normally run mobile advertising displays along with it, but in Kyle's examples, we actually ran only display advertising on mobile. We didn't run it anywhere else. So that's definitely a strong preference for us. Really works well, display advertising on mobile. So next step, let's talk about different kinds of creative, different ways they can appear. Because when you first mentioned display advertising, you mentioned billboard, and that's really how we think of it most often. It's a static image that's going to represent your brand. Possibly, if have a call to action, doesn't necessarily have to have a call to action for brand awareness. But what other kind of display advertising are there out there besides the static image, Michael?
Sure. You've got in addition to the static image, you can have animate, some animation either in GIF or flash ads, which are sort of falling out of favor these days. I don't think even Google will let you run flash ads anymore.
That's right.
Completely phased them out. They've really been focusing on HTML5.
Right. So HTML5 have animation, but they also give you the more interactive elements that we saw appearing at the very end of Flash, where you can actually accomplish a task through the ad. So I know, Kyle, we were talking earlier, you mentioned an example of an ad where you could actually accomplish a task.
Yes, like for instance, I've seen one with it's like a car dealership, and they actually let you select your exterior color, which I think is really cool, and it really personalizes it for a lot of people. I've also seen tourism ads where you can sort of select the kind of travel that you want to be doing. You want to do a lot of adventuring or hiking or something like that, and then it tailors. You can kind of pick and it shows you everything in that particular region that has that kind of thing. Like here's national parks if you're into hiking, or here's if you have a family, here's a really cool theme park that's in our area. And it's the little sliders that you select, and it just puts that right in front of you. It feels really cool.
Yeah, what's really cool is you're interacting with the ad. It becomes an element you can play with. But from a user standpoint or from an advertiser standpoint, we're also able to gain information and data about who that audience is, and if they actually click through to our site, we can know who they are and present a personalized appearance. Whether they're an outdoor person or a theme park person, and they click through to our website, we can make sure they have the outdoor experience or the theme park experience when they come to our website.
And then pair that with some retargeting that's catered just to them for that exact type of person.
Exactly. So you
is
do
really
that little bit of information we end up collecting and pulling them in. And that kind of brings us to this concept of making sure the creative reflects where they are in the buyer's journey. So why don't you tell us about that, Whitney?
I think what's really interesting is going through the buyer's journey from path to purchase. You know, if it's the static information or an HTML5 that even has a video playing inside of it, that maybe that's your brand awareness piece that's driving traffic to gain more information about the user. Then you have the retargeting element of, we thought, you might want to know about this new thing that you potentially are interested in. So using that data segmentation to really customize what the ad can be. It also allows us to then follow through and watch their path to purchase to closing. Was it this campaign that, following your tourism example, they saw this video about possible things to do for the weekend. They picked the things that they were interested in. Then we saw an actual influx in people who attended an event or went somewhere and went hiking. It also, from an account standpoint, from like a client standpoint, it shows you where to allocate your ad dollars. If most of my traffic is excited about hiking, well then I need to focus more on that and do a boost on that. Just from a budgeting standpoint, and really optimize that out, and then figure out what am I missing from the other elements. So from a strategy standpoint, it tells you a lot about what your audience gains from you, as opposed to what you want to tell them that they might be interested in. So I think there's a lot of advantages from the data that we get from display campaigns, but also just from the journey of it. There are different message points that we want to stay in touch with people, help give them more information, and let them choose what they want to know. And that's when people actually aren't as offended by ads. People like ads when they're relevant to them. And giving them that control over the experience is when we're seeing the higher click-through rate.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things you mentioned as you talk about different parts of the journey is how we target people in different parts of the journey. We talked about, from the very beginning, retargeting. So someone who's visited your website or visited a specific item, hitting them again. But tell us about behavioral retargeting and how we can target that, Michael.
Sure. It's not a big secret that your computer pays attention to what you're doing online, through cookies and just general browser history. Google and Facebook and all the big data people have a pretty strong idea of what you are, what you're looking for, and who you are. And using our partners with them, we can tap into that data and find out if someone is is actually searching for a new car, or if they are parents, or the things like that, and we can use that data to target them specifically and deliver them a specific ad experience.
Right. So really, we can start from a geographic standpoint, and geographic down to about a 500 square feet space. We can target geographically too. Demographically, we can target men, women. We can target age brackets. We can target other kinds of income, educational level,
interest,
and then we get into job kind of targeting, that we can target people who have different kinds of jobs. There's interest targeting, or people who've done stuff. There's credit card data targeting, people who've bought or made purchases in certain areas. And then we have that behavioral targeting that Michael was talking about, like someone who is in market to purchase a car or something like that, or not just a car, but a full-size red pickup truck or something like that. It sometimes gets that specific.
And then create an image or an interactive ad that reflects that, because the more of the data that we collect, the more reflective the ad can be of the person that we're trying to convert. And that's really the that's why we want to gain as much data points as we can and try to segment the list as much as possible. Because, and I know that we've talked about this several times, but people being able to see themselves, that reflective ad of, I can see myself in this experience, I can see myself in this vehicle, I can see myself purchasing this or being interested in this, helps with the closing of the conversion.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, any final thoughts from you guys on display advertising before we move on?
No, I think that's display for sure.
One final thing, you mentioned it earlier, but it's always been my key is we want advertising to be useful to people.
Oh, absolutely.
Useful. Because, if we go back to the days of like my grandmother reading the newspaper,
Yep.
And have you heard me tell this story
Yes.
before? So when my grandmother read the newspaper, I had an assignment for school to watch her read the newspaper one day. And my grandmother read the paper through this big magnifying glass, so it was really easy to see. But she actually looked at all the ads in the paper rather than the stories. Because this is like in, the early 80s, a long time ago, when
Right.
I was a little kid. And she was looking at, her dress store or the grocery shop or the ad from the church about what they're, going to have the special speaker or the sermon.
Right.
On. That's how she read the paper, for the ads. In the same way, through all the kinds of retargeting and targeting and contextual targeting and behavioral targeting, those ads can become useful. Recently, I purchased a new car. Seeing ads for new cars were useful to me. Seeing the different aspects of a different car and the way you could purchase it or who the dealerships, that was all good data for me. It was useful advertising, much higher click-through rates, didn't annoy me, didn't want to use any ad blocking software, because it is useful information for me along the way. So that's the ultimate goal for advertising, is if your advertising becomes a useful piece of content to your user that's going to meet their needs, that's going to answer the questions they have about their journey to wherever. Buying things, everybody's buying things. We're all consumers and purchases. We just need to match up the ads to what you're looking for, to your information needs.
Absolutely. And I think that's what, in this area, I have a ton of friends like the people who love their Kroger card. How many times, every time you purchase, you get a list of coupons for things that you recently buy a lot of and things that you also might be interested in. It's the same idea. It's just using that in a digital format. That's kind of where it's the lead generation purchase of it. A lot of people don't think of display ads as far as lead generation, but I'm actually working on a campaign that's heavy in e-commerce. So it's, sign back into your account. We're running retargeting ads that are reminding people to increase activity from the client side, but it's sign in or create an account. So people who are similar to the same audience that has already an account, we're telling other people to do it. So there's an awareness piece that's putting the brand out there. Then there's a create an account or a sign back in piece. Then there's a retargeting piece. There's a shopping cart abandonment piece of, it's been a few days since you were here. There's a piece of that. There's also Gmail ads have a display element to them. That's something that's launched more recently than just banner ads or interactive ads. And Gmail ads are getting a really good traction so far.
Yeah, so definitely lots of different forms of advertising, a lot of different forms of creative ways to push it. We really want the creative to reflect the minutia of the audience, and really can automate a lot of that through our Doppio system, using data elements from Doppio to automate the creative and to make display advertising a useful piece of information for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, I appreciate you joining us this week on Midday Roast with Team SI. I want to encourage you, if you have any questions, you can ask a question in the comment box and we'll answer your question. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at We Are Team SI. You can also visit our blog at teamsi.com and you'll see this video there and you can ask questions. If you have any questions for us about display advertising or want to know how you can advertise your company, you can fill out a form on that website or call the number from teamsi.com. Thanks for joining us.